Thank you for today.
You're owing me.
See you back to job parfait.
All right.
Okay, so I think
Already.
we're directing to you. So you have to close. Thank you for today. To avoid echo. Okay, please check on YouTube. Esther, please check on YouTube that you can still see. Trying to share my screen. All right, can everyone see my screen? We're just checking to see. So that we can see my screen. Okay, welcome. Today is farm banking, leveraging architecture or real estate and agriculture. Can you see that? Farm banking, leveraging architecture or agriculture and real estate. So I'm trying to check so that I can see questions also. Okay, so we're live. If at any time the media goes by, just let me know. And because of our time, I want this not to be more than the prescribed time. We'll go straight into it. So we'll start our welcome thoughts, and then we look at land banking. But can someone confirm if you can hear me good, particularly those of us on the call? Can you all hear me okay? Can someone confirm if you can hear me well?
Yes, sir.
Great, thank you. So we'll look at our welcome thoughts, and then we'll look at land banking. And then from land banking, I'll introduce permaculture. Permaculture is the bridge between architecture and agriculture. We'll then go to introducing farm banking, which is the concept that we're pioneering. I'll spend a little bit of time then I'll talk about the link between architecture and agriculture. So because I've talked about this a lot, there's also a concept called agritecture, which I'll talk about. Then I'll go into some project ideas that we are privileged to also launch. And so the welcome thoughts straight away. For land banking, you have heard it said, don't wait to buy land and wait. What we're adding to that narrative is to say, why wait to buy land when you can plant on that land? Why buy land and wait rather when you can buy land, plant on the land, and gain as you wait? So that's the narrative that we're adding, that don't just buy land and then wait. You can buy land, plant on that land, and gain as you wait. And so let's look straight into land banking. The concept of land banking is aggregating land as an investment for future development without immediate specific plans for it. And it has some very interesting advantages. This was a career years back, who would have imagined? And you know, at that time, people would have been saying that this space was bush, the bush was far. For instance, one of the principles that we teach is around every metropolis, around every city, major city, if you do a radius 10 kilometers around that city, or 1 hour driving around that city, in 10 years, that part, all things being equal, those regions, that circle around that city will become part of that city in 10 years. Now, there's something notoriously that is known around cities, is the spread of what we call shacks, the spread of, they call it urban sprawl, where because around centers of development, centers of activities, commercial centers or nerve centers, a lot of people rush into those places seeking work, and commercial buildings rises, commercial property rises, and they become very expensive to host people. But people need to live, people need to eat. Then they begin to live around the major surrounding areas. So land banking is looking for a place that you expect that in a number of years will develop, and then purchasing that land and just waiting. is the waiting game, waiting for a long time. And the advantage to that is that it is affordable, it requires minimal maintenance, and then it has the potential for high returns. Case in point, I know the story of someone.
Thank you.
Someone is muted. That's from Zoom. I've muted the person. Sorry. People to mute as they join. All right. So if you're just coming in, please mute as you join. I was talking about a case of someone who bought a piece of property at 1,000 naira per acre years ago, and then as he bought those properties, years later, what then happened around is he waited at least 30 years. After 30 years, he started selling those properties at 5 million a plot. Now, what has happened is future appreciation, and then it helps you tie your capital. The challenge with that is that it holds that same capital frozen for a long time. Land is not readily convertible to cash. You need to sell it. And then there's a challenge peculiar to Africa and Nigeria we call land grabbing. In the down south here, it's known more as Omonile issues. And then there's also sometimes costs to safeguard that property, which could be from title documents, fencing, and different things. It may be more than was initially bargained, because if you buy a large expanse of land, it will interest you to know that with current prices, it might take, if not more, than the cost of the land to fence that land. So there are different things that we recommend that people should do, and that's why we came up with the concept of farm banking. So land banking is a very beautiful one. It is tied to the earth. The earth is limited in quantity. It is not produced anymore. The best people do is that they say that they try to reclaim. But even when they say they try to reclaim land, it is still land that is available, just marshy. Yeah. So let's introduce permaculture, which is the bridge. Permaculture is a design thinking system, and I'm pushing permaculture deliberately. I'm hearing feedback from someone. Okay, I'm pushing permaculture deliberately simply because this is a system that enables the production of diverse, stable, productive yields. Now, it works with the earth, works to benefit people, and creates a system that produces an increase. So permaculture asks us to think for the earth, think for its people, produce a yield that increases a surplus. What land banking does is that, yes, it protects the earth, it provides an income, but it does not provide a surplus. There is no surplus immediately. You're just tying down the earth. So permaculture is a beautiful way to integrate landscapes for people and for nature. Now, it encompasses a variety of disciplines. I'm an architect. My background is architecture. Finance people can be in permaculture, landscape people, ecological design, medical scientists, nutritionists, environmental design. I've even met structural engineers. I've met different people who came into permaculture. And the beautiful thing about permaculture is that it allows you bring in your existing knowledge into that particular field. And even if you don't want to become maybe a permaculture designer, you don't want to go all the way, but having access to information like this can begin to show you that, okay, there is more. There's a way to think differently. For instance, as an architect, you can now begin to think of responsible housing, think about foodscapes, which is one of the things that I recommend. I've said this in many of my videos, that I recommend foodscapes over landscapes. For instance, I was in Edo State. Today is Thursday. On Tuesday, and I'll share that video later on. There was a field of water leaf, and all of them were flowering at the same time. What attracted me to it was I just saw a patch of pink colors, and I was like, wow, this is beautiful. And immediately I had to do a video. And incidentally, somebody then asked me, why do you say foodscapes over landscape? I just sent the video because it was beautiful, but would also be very tasty. So of what advantage is aesthetics that we cannot feed on? So as an engineer, you can come up with waste to wealth systems, renewable system, partial replacement, several things. We need to develop ourselves in the direction of sustainability and regenerative design. We need to begin to think in that way. There are several principles of permaculture. And usually when I talk like this, I prefer to talk about one or two. What one says to obtain a yield. One of the principles of permaculture says to obtain a yield. That means for whatever thing you are doing, don't just do things for things' sake. Do it to be productive. Even in life, one of our desires is to be productive. Why do we send our children to school? We want them, the yield we get from that is that we have an educated child, we have an informed child, we have a child who's better prepared for the world. So do it to obtain a yield. Another one says to observe and value diversity. In most typical real estate developments, for instance, you will see where people, they want to maximize the land because land is expensive. So they have very small green strips. And one of the things I even see in real estate in Lagos and urban areas nowadays is the green is not even real anymore. They just buy artificial turf and put it there. But one of the questions I like to put to people is, look at the way everything is designed. Man breathes in oxygen and breathes out carbon dioxide. Trees reverse that process, except at night when they expect man to be asleep. Now, so we then take trees that we require for food, we require for fuel, we require for even oxygen, and we begin to fell this in the name of urban sprawl. What we're pushing today is look at nature as a canvas that we need to work with. Every piece of earth is different. Even your own house, where you live in, you know, in one house, maybe say a 3-bedroom flat or a 2-bedroom flat, or even what we call a studio apartment, a self-contained. Yeah, you can have the living room very breezy, and then the room is very hot. You can have the kitchen very breezy, and then the living room is very hot. And you're wondering, why does that happen? It's simple. I can explain simply for us here. We get the sun rises on the east, sets on the west. Architects know this. Farmers also know this, and we use it for different things. Now, for design, we put kitchen, hot activities towards the west. But when you now see real estate developers begin to do their thing, they simply design to maximize without caring for anything. What if, you may ask, a property now needs to face the west? The simple solution, put a green wall, plant a tree. That tree will provide shade for the west-facing sun. The tree needs that sun. It will provide shade for the house, and then it will cool it down. What if it's an high-rise building? Put a living wall. There are things that if you don't begin to think like this from the design system, it would affect. And a lot of us, you know, some people, they get home and they don't see the reasons why you don't like your office or you don't like your house. You don't like the way you live, and it is for some of these simple reasons, because spaces affect your mood. Do you know that when you go to a restaurant, I mean fine dining restaurant, the lights are always dim, and then everything there is prim and proper. The waitress, the people attending to you, they are slow. But when you go to a fast food, the lights are always very bright. The seats are designed to be uncomfortable. They want you to eat and go so that the next person comes. This is design. So, but permaculture is saying design for people, design for the earth. If you ask a typical person living in an environment, they just come, they clear every tree and put in their art paving. Permaculture teaches us to do differently. I can't take so much of that. We can interact more on that in our question series. But let's go straight into farm banking, which is what we want to talk about, introducing the best of agriculture, real estate, and fusing that together. So farm banking is a concept we came up with, is a system of aggregating land in locations that are developing, but utilizing them for low maintenance, high yielding agri production. Now, we have done this in several of our projects, and we have seen that farming, at the core of farming, is a real estate business. I'll tell you a story. They asked Ray Kroc, who is the founder of McDonald's, that what business are you into? And Ray Kroc asked some students that he wanted to that he was teaching in a master class that what business is McDonald's into, and all of them laughed and chorused, of course you sell burgers. And he responded that no, actually McDonald's is a real estate business. And it began to show them that they only pick prime locations where they can have high foot traffic, and that the business is backed by those locations that they have bought into. Catholic Church is one of the churches that have highest real estate investments. You see people right now in our day, they are stockpiling land. Every iPhone series that comes out will have another one unless the company decides not to produce. But the earth, they don't produce it anymore. You can't go and bring planet Mars and say you want to now put it up on the earth. The earth is limited in value. It's limited in quantity rather. So what we need to do and what we're teaching and what we're pushing is that we need to be deliberate about aggregating land. We need to be deliberate about aggregating land and then utilizing those lands. And one of the things that we say is buy early, buy earth. And then buy early, there are three matrix within that. There is the buy matrix, there is the plant matrix, and there is the waiting matrix. So under the buy matrix, we say buy early, buy earth, and buy the future. Under the plant matrix, we also say plant early, plant for you and the earth, and then plant for the future. Then under the wait matrix, we then say watch, wait, manage, maintain. And let me explain this. I was in the office with my guys maybe about 6 weeks ago, thereabout. I'm not sure it's 2 months yet. And one thing I do as an architect is I just go on Google Map and I check areas around my location. And you'll be surprised that just by this practice, I have found large expanse of developing lands. In fact, doing a trip down earlier this week, I was on the map. So as we're driving past, I wasn't driving, as we're driving past, I was literally checking places around because, I mean, that's my own wiring and that's my own profession. But back to my story, I was with a guy in the office and I told them, let's look at the development around the coastal region of Nigeria. So you will see from around towards Benin Republic down, you would have Badagry coming in. Then from Badagry, you will then move in somehow. You come into VI, Ikoyi. You then begin to go into Ibeju. Then from Ibeju, you then begin to stretch to Aja. You then begin to stretch into Ekwe. From Ekwe, you now get, as you stretch down, like a Pine Tropicana, you begin to stretch down. You now get to Dangote Refinery. I now say, guys, Dangote was in the news before the recent one that he has gone to meet the Ogun State governor. They've had a conversation about him bringing $800 million. That, do you know where he's looking at next? After the refinery, you've left Lagos State, you now come into Ogun State. You will then see that you are coming into an area called the Ijebu Waterside, where that is where he wants to site his seaport. That place, I have been eyeing it for even before he announced it, definitely, maybe at least 2 years now. And I've looked at it. From that place, you will continue down, you get to Ondo. From Ondo, you continue down until you get to Cross River. Now, right now, the current governor, current president, is doing a coastal road. And the Lagos State governor has now said every development around, every approval around Ekpe, they've paused it. The federal government then said every approval around the coastal road, they've paused it. Because they now ask people, only those that have documents. Why am I sharing this story? This is the time, if you want to now go into Olokola that Dangote has now announced, it is late. It should have moved before now. So a lot of my guys are now mentioned, Dangote didn't. I said, I've been checking that area now. What should we do if we want to go there? We should go to Ondo. Ondo is the next level after this. From Ondo down onto the coastal area and then move about 2 kilometers because the federal government has right of way around there. So buy early, buy the earth, and buy the future. The next step is to plant early. So make your money moves under buy early. Make a decision, make it quick, make your decisions quick, make it while you are young, and be consistent. You see, it's a waiting game. I can tell you for a fact, once Dangote does is what's it called now? The seaport, the next that whole area will open up. So maybe we shouldn't share. The decision that we want to take is to now buy before or around in a way that we know development will come into. All right. And then buy earth. Because with real estate, houses can burn, companies can collapse, stock exchange can fall. You cannot burn the earth. If you flood the earth, it will come back. The land is such that it will stay. Then buy the future. Don't just go and say that, my village is one very fine village. I am a native of maybe one place. Don't let me mention any name before they say I'm attacking anyone. And then you just go and buy one place. So for instance, some people know that we aggregate land. So they sent me a location. And when they sent me that location and I looked at it, I said, I'm not going to be interested in it. Your pricing is good, but I'm not interested in this location because there is no commercial hub in and around the location. When I get to some of our projects and I share with us, you see that there are several commercial activities that are around the locations that we're looking at or interested in. So we then say plant early, because if you want to plant, there's this Chinese proverb that says the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The second best time is now. It's always painful to me that I didn't plant 100 acres 5 years ago. But you know what I'm doing right now? This year, we've established 100 acres already. So instead of staying in regret, and next year, not only have we established 100 acres for this year, we have gotten seedlings for 300 acres for next year. So every year we will keep expanding and planting. So you need to have a plan for yourself. And I remember I talked about this. When I talk about this, you don't need to necessarily be in a large expanse of land, but you need to be deliberate, even in places where there is urban sprawl everywhere. I remember in our house, there are certain crops that are very easy to grow in sacks. Example is fluted pumpkin. We know it as ugu. Another example is yam. We don't buy ugu because of that. We just plant it and then you cut it. When you cut it, it grows again. You cut it, it grows again. There are several simple things that we can do. Then plant for the future. I spent a lot of time here. And then the final thing is to watch and wait. Watch and wait, because you can't just plant a land. And then, I then wanted to refer to a particular concept here. The beautiful thing about planting is that you cannot necessarily fence 1,000 acres, but you can put boundary crops, trees around 1,000 acres. All you have to do is watch it for the first 2 years. In fact, the trees that we planted in 2021, as at 2023, they were already 2 times my height, and I'm not very short. I'm 5'11". They were just slender. So in 3 years, those trees will they'll grow tall first, then they'll begin to expand. And there's no way anybody comes here, that this land belongs to someone. That is one way to safeguard. And let's do numbers for it. So one tree seedling in 1 year, let's say I'll pick teak or melina. That's a timber crop. It costs say about 1,000, and you plant that. When I say 1,000, that's cost of the seedling, cost of planting, cost of watching it for 1 year. That means even you employ people, they watch it because the seedlings are not that expensive. Yeah. So imagine you are able to you plant 1,000 of that, and it sets you back 1 million, and then you just keep it for the next 6 years. In fact, in 2021, I met a man who sold his 5-year trees as at 2021. I think he sold them for 10,000 each. But the standard price, if you leave them as at last year, and I'm saying last year because I've not updated the current price, if you leave them for 7 years, just by keeping them around doing nothing, it's about 25,000. So tell me something that will guarantee you that just selling it, not processing it. And this is how you sell it. You just invite people that log wood to come to your site, and they log it, they transport it, and they go, and they pay you cash. So plant for the future. You have a lot of us have vacant lots in our villages. These are things that we need to really put our thoughts into. So what are the processes for farm banking? Land acquisition, you consider are you leasing the land? Is the land yours? If you are leasing it for a short time, what are you going to do with it? If it's something that is yours, you can then do long-term crops, because you can't do long-term crops on short-term land. So those are considerations you need to have. Then what kind of soil is it? Some people say, what can you do with swampy ground? There are a lot of things you can do with swampy ground. I'll tell you too. Sugarcane, rice. There are lots that you can do there. What kind of soil type you have, and then design deliberately for that. So there are several things you can do under the farm banking processes. I don't want to spend so much time on that. I promised to talk about the link between architecture and agriculture, and this is for my architecture friends. This is for my people who are in agriculture. And even if you're not an architect, if you are not into agriculture, I can simply say, do you live in a house? Do you eat? If you do, this is also for you. Now, these two professions, one of the things that we're really pushing and putting out there is that these two professions are too similar. As I began to study it and look at it, I'm like, these two professions are too similar for them not to merge at some point. And that's what permaculture literally does. You see, both of them deal with the earth. Both of them deal with the ecosystem. You see architects talk about, oh, we need to take care of the ecosystem, we need to design for the earth, we need to care for this. Architects are fighting climate change. You will see people in agriculture also fighting climate change. And then we have separated both. But back in the day, it was not really separated. So we need to find a clear barrier to see how can we create responsible living systems that ensure that you have the best of architecture and the best of agriculture combined. How are your structures designed to breathe? For instance, this project here that the picture is showing here is a project we did for Soilless Farm Lab. That's in our Belkuta. We made use of compressed bricks using earth, what we call laterite. I know the funny thing, the moment we finished that project, that became like the meeting point because it was obviously different. The temperature was obviously different. If you're coming from outside, you see that it's very hot. The moment you step into it, it's very cool. You know, our local bakeries, I'll give you another example. Our local bakeries used to have mud, used to be mud with fire inside. And then while it is burning with fire inside, you are on the outside and you are cool. Remember, there's this thing we used to call in Yoruba, I think Amo, where our local refrigeration system, where they used to have water from the cup in eating. How many of you know Amo? For those of us on the Zoom, you can type it in if you know Amo. I don't know if it's a different name in your language, or if you're on YouTube, you can just type it in. And it was naturally cool. Do you know why? Because compressed earth blocks or earth laterite, it is able to keep in temperature and release it only at night. So during the day, it is very cool. Then at night, when everything becomes very cold, it begins to release that and it regulates the temperature. And that is how we built gradually. So one of the things that we're interested in pushing is how do we make this mainstream again? How do we make this in a way that we design responsible systems that is climate smart? So for many of our estates, many of our projects, we will be infusing this. So these are thinking systems that I want us to begin to look at. So for instance, some of the ideas that we're pushing now is to have roof gardens. There are a lot of roof wastages that I see in Africa, in Nigeria. And we're pushing this particularly for sub-Saharan Africa. We particularly like to copy. So you see, there's this roof type that we call send down the rain. That is, you have a very high roof. And abroad, where that was designed, it is actually used for snow load. So they do angle 45 so that when the snow drops on it, it runs off. In Nigeria, it's only rain. At 2 degrees, water will flow. But naturally, we have seen it abroad, we want to do it. What I then recommend, why can't we replicate roof gardens? This can happen, it's happening abroad, it can happen in Nigeria. And what roof gardens will do is that it will even regulate your need for cooling because you will need a layer of soil. The only challenge with it is that your structure has to be strong because soil has weight. Now we can have passive solar design that incorporates plants. There are plants that act as humidifier. There are plants that give off a fragrance. These are things that also help in agriculture. Now, I also mentioned foodscapes over landscapes. Edible foodscapes over landscapes. I know landscapes, you're just prioritizing aesthetics. But I tell you, do you want to tell me that when you have peppers let me say atarodo, and they are all blooming in season, and you see the fine red. Is it not fine? It is very beautiful and tasty. I gave the example of a few that was in 2 days ago. It was just purple and it was water leaf, and I'm like, this is beautiful. I'll post. I'll probably post it later on this on the ArchiFarmer page. So we also need to have our gardeners need to become agronomists. This generation that we're in, we need to pay attention to our own food. A question I ask our people, particularly those of us in our community, do you know where your food is coming from? Can you ascertain the quality of the food that you eat? Do you know where your fruit is coming from? Can you ascertain the processes that you eat? So you need to be involved in growing your own food. All right, not to spend much time about this. I've talked about, okay, let me just take one here. Design from the future backward. Were you here 10 years ago? Everybody on the call, you were here 10 years ago. Will you be here in 10 years' time? The answer is yes. So if you'll be here in 10 years' time, if you have just a vacant plot, one plot of land, and you plant 10 coconut trees, you plant 3 or 4 palm trees, then you plant perfume trees, you plant orchards, you plant things like, so orchards, all the perfume trees, the palm trees, all those one will grow tall, the coconut trees will go straight. Now, one coconut tree in about 5 to 7 years will begin to produce about 100 fruits. If you have 100 of that or 10 of that, that is 1,000 fruits. So you have produced a surplus for yourself and you can begin to sell. And you can have that. You have a mango tree, one mango tree, every mango season. You have friends, sudden friends that will come and be gaining from that. And you are sure that this becomes something healthy that you can. Now, why we're pushing this out there is that if you want to experience this in the next 7 to 10 years, this is the time to make those decisions. So if you are living in an urban center, what stops you from having 1 acre in a rural center where you can drive for one vacation and just go there and sit down and interact with nature? There is this concept called grounding, where you remove your shoes and you connect to the earth and it relieves your body. So I encourage everyone, let's be deliberate to create the future that we want to see. I have a saying, I only dream of the future that I will create. And that's the dream behind a lot of the things that we're doing. And that's why we're sharing this. So I've talked about architectural ideas. I'll probably take this in another class. So now let's go to project examples. We've been talking theory, farm banking, but I hope you're getting some value and understanding what we mean when we say farm banking. Now, this is Ilaro. This is our first project. It's entirely owned by members of our community. I may talk about that later on. Now, in this land, we have 54 acres. And out of that 54 acres, we've planted oil palm on about 50 acres out of it. The oil palm there is our anchor crop. Then we now reserved 4 acres. Actually, it's over 4 acres that we then reserved. We've planted orchard crops. We've planted, we have potatoes, we have yam, we have over 500 heads of yam, we have pineapple, we have tangelo, shaddock, as in at least 300 orchard crops. We have ogbono. My wife tells me that commands good value. I think we bought 20 of that. We have jackfruit. I mean, I can't remember. It's a whole list that we have there. So it's for members of our cooperative, because we're trying to create a place where members of the cooperative can simply come from the hustle and bustle. Then we have reserved a place where we want to put an eco pond. That's a natural pond, because that place, we notice that whenever it rains, you get water that stays in that place that gets about your knee. So all we want to do is sink a pond in that area and then put natural fish so that we can then invite people to come and relax there. And all of this, we're still earning money from it. We purchased this property to show you farm banking. We purchased this property in 2023. We established it also in 2023. As at this year, 2025, we're expanding, and prices of real estate in the same place that we purchased just 2 years ago has doubled. Just 2 years ago. Now we're expanding, we're negotiating, and we're trying to get more land, because land is limited in value. It's going to increase. So we have some pictures of that. So remember, this is 2 years ago. If you can see my icon, I don't know if you can see my icon. If you can see my icon, this is the car. I'm going to try and sketch around it here. All of this space is the 4 acres. On this side to the farm is where we have the oil palm. Let me just see if I have more pictures to show you. We have oil palm already growing there. We have yam. We have different things in this same place. And if it were to be land banking will be rejoicing right now that, hey, my land is double of value. What we are doing as farm banking is that we have put in at least 2,000 oil palm trees. Now, one oil palm tree will, let's go into a little bit of numbers. One oil palm tree will produce around 20 to 25 liters every year from year 7. And it will produce like that if you treat it properly for at least 30 years. We have done our estimates, and from that portion of land where we have oil palm, every year the cooperative will be making at least 40 to 50 million every year. And you know what? The value of the land will keep appreciating. So, and we're just going to leave it for 30 years because the value keeps appreciating. We have our mango that is already doing well. We have, in fact, for our boundary crops, I'm not sure if we have pictures. Okay, this is the same land. If you can see the oil palm, this is oil palm already growing just 2 years. So we know that in another 3 to 4 years, we begin to generate an income while the land is appreciating in value. We have different crops so that, and the reason for diversity, I was talking about in one of the permaculture principles, is you're not dependent on one. A lot of people, smallholder farmers, we have maize farmers, and then they do, even our fathers are wise enough to do maize and cassava so that they first get the profit of maize and then they do cassava. But the challenge is if something happens to the price or if they have a disease outbreak, that's the end. What are we doing? We're doing maize, we're doing cassava, but we're also doing oil palm. And we're also doing several other crops all within it. Then we have 2,000 boundary crops to show our fence. At some point, some people came and bought the land by our side, and then they now started putting a road between our land. So they're putting a bike road, then they tried to make it a car road. But because we have planted our boundary crops from 2023, we just pointed that this is our boundary. Your road, though, is within our land. See our boundary with the crops. So we have 2,000 trees. Let's do the math for 2,000 trees. We planted 2023. Just leave it till the end of the decade or even 2033. 2,000 trees times just 20K or do 25K. And that was prices of 2021. Imagine what prices will be. I know the funny thing, we have no intentions to sell because we're already making money for several other things. We just want to show that this is our boundary with those crops. So farm banking shows you can have land, get the benefit of land banking. You can have a farm and also get the benefits. That's what we're sharing here. So these are pictures of it. Everything, the one on the right are showing you our heap for our yams. And the yams are good. Our potatoes are good. We have started tasting of those wonderful goodies. Let me see if we can rush into another project. This is Permaculture Farm City. So Permaculture Farm City, we launched that in December 30 last year. We now decided, okay, we have 54 acres. It's better we scale. We started looking for land and we found land. Now this land that we found is located right beside the expressway in a land called Adoawaye, and we bought this land. Now, the same price with which we bought this land, somebody was offering me to buy, Adoawaye is in Oyo State, to buy a place in Imeko. In fact, slightly higher than this, to buy a place in Imeko, Ogun State, that we should buy at also. I then looked at the map and I said, no, farm banking principle says you buy early, you buy for the future. Okay, if we're in class, I would have said, what have you learned? Can you tell me what are the principles? Now, because this is right by the express, we know that it is a function of Bokweboya. Do you understand? It's a function of time. If you don't understand Yoruba, it's a function of time. That place will become prime real estate. So what are we now doing there? We're doing oil palm too, 600 acres of oil palm. And we have established the first 100 acres because it is capital intensive. So we take it step by step. Yeah. So next year, and we have established the first 100 acres. Now we have also now set up seedlings, 18,000 for the next 300, and we're putting 200 here. We're taking 100 to our different other locations that we're also establishing because we are not limiting ourselves to one location. We are spreading ourselves across locations that we can currently manage. All right. So for this location, we then found out that it is 15 kilometers to the only naturally suspended lake in the world. That is the Ado-Awaye Mountain Lake. We also now found out that the road beside us that shares our boundary leads to Oshogun. Oshogun is the campus where Bishop Ajayi Crowther is from. And then there is the Ajayi Crowther University behind us. We are by the express. In fact, we had people, members of the investing community, one of them from the UK came in and he had driven around that day. So we had waited for him. When we took him to site, I'm so sure he was thinking, we're driving on the express, we're going. And once we stopped and we took him to site, and we said, this is the place. His countenance changed. When we asked him to tell us his review, he immediately started saying, this is the place to be in, and he was very impressed. The beautiful thing about a project like this, or the principle or the lesson to learn, is that don't just go and buy bush. Buy bush that will grow. Buy bush that can appreciate. This project is a this year project, but with what we have done, we started December 30, so it is 2 days older than this year. With what we have done, in another 2 years, the value of this land will more than double again. In another 3 years, and then we have no intentions to sell for the next 30 years. That's those of us that own portions here. And what will happen in 30 years? Remember, oil palm, every year you'll be getting per acre at least $1 million. You're making your money spread that way over time. And at the end of 30 years, the land has appreciated massively in value. You can do whatever you want to do. Let me give you an example. Do you know Abule-Egba, areas around Abule-Egba? There's an area called Okoba. Around Abule-Egba, you have a lot of agricultural ministry cooperatives because it literally means, Okoba literally means the king's farm. So every time you drive around Abule-Egba, you see abattoir, you see all of those things. You are literally around a place that 30, 40 years ago was a farm. And that's what we're doing with that particular one. And okay, so this is one of our team members. She's on the call right now. Esther, I hope you can see yourself. That's Esther. They braved the climb. So this is the mountain lake. It's exactly 15 kilometers from our property. And so there's a lake on top of the mountain. It was fun. I didn't climb because it's 369 steps. 1 step for a day of a year, and you still have 4 steps extra. I didn't climb. So these are locations right by the express. That's the express inside of it. And I wish I could show us this. So this is the layout that we're working on. This on the right-hand side is the first 470 acres. Everything that you see green there this is what will happen after 30 years. Excuse me. So everything that you see green are places that even after it becomes a residential development, we intend to leave for farming, for parks, for tree crops, for fruit crops, because what we are proposing to be development should be development that have within it nature reserves. So are we following thus far? Can somebody just let me know if you're following thus far? Somebody.
Yes.
Yes. Yes, sir.
Yes.
All righty then. Thank you so much. So this is another one. I can spend a whole day here. This is Ikara. Ikara is in Edo State, in Ipoba Upper local government of Edo State. It's 875 acres. It's a regenerative farm city, and we're also doing farm banking. Now with this project, there's nothing happening in that place. As at right now, we are creating a fence for part of this project. It's going to be an agri-eco resort. It has a river flowing beside it, and then we'll be putting cage aquaculture. That means river cages with fish on the river. We have some on the swamp. We have different types of farms and all of that. Now, one of the things we're teaching with farm banking is don't just have one type of crop. Don't just have one type of project. For the two farm city I was talking about, if you notice, we have 1,000 acres. We're only setting up 600 for the anchor crop. It's similar to Ilaro, that is 54 acres, where we have 50 acres and then 4 acres. And we're only setting up 50 acres for anchor crop, because you don't want to expose yourself to shocks if something were to happen to your anchor crop. For people who farm cocoa and then maybe the prices of cocoa were to fall globally, we then have different other things that you can do. And that's one of the things that we're doing in Ikara. I love this one so much because it is beside a river. And just by that location, there is a lot of things that we can do. Now, in that city, in that village, they started road construction. Once road construction started, people started calling, they want to buy land, they want to buy land, they want to buy land. The land prices are started appreciating. By virtue of this Farm City project, the land prices in that area will change radically, and the project itself will yield an increase. So this is farm banking, where you have your farm as a way to increase the value of your land. We're not just talking about a farm where you come in and you're just saying bush, you're just saying different things. We're talking about a farm that is consciously designed, a place that within all our farm locations, we have ecotourism at the heart of it, where people will pay to visit our farms. You want to come and eat healthy, you will pay to just come and engage with natural lifestyle. So we'll have rabbits. In this particular one, we have cows, we have goats, we have chicken. We will then have different, from vermiculture, that I don't want to go into that, earthworms. We will then have apiculture, bees. We have different things all working together, where the waste of one becomes the produce of another. For instance, rabbit urine is pesticide, rabbit poo is organic fertilizer, and that begins to serve the field. Produce of the field is fed to it. Several things. Just watch this project. It has its own separate page. So we've also designed for it, and this one is already impacting the ecosystem in that area. So these are possibilities that are there. So I would like to pause here. Oops, we're almost at 1 hour to allow us time to engage. And let me just talk about Capsule. That's also we are an ecosystem. Within our ecosystem, we have. I'm privileged to be the CIO of the group. We have registered companies and cooperatives, and our cooperatives essentially manage most of our projects. We then have companies. I'm an architect, so of all the projects listed, Ikara is not owned by us; it's managed by us for another client, essentially. But it's a very good example of a farm banking project. So we do permaculture design and implementation. Our cooperatives then fund, like I said, for Ilaro is owned by members of our cooperative. Within the team itself, we do sustainable agriculture, architecture and agriculture. So within our design team, we have permaculture designers, we have architects, and then we have agronomists. So we don't just, for instance, we don't just design and then look at the architecture angle alone. We bring in different things together. So our focus is on total design planning. So that is who we are, and that's what we do. And I'm here to take our comments and questions. I hope you found some value. I see there's some chats. I'll try to see if there are questions also on the YouTube link. So thank you very much, everyone. If you have questions, yeah, this is time for us to engage. If you got value, you can also drop a chat. You can let us know. You can unmute and just share. So thank you so much, everyone. I'm here standing by for our questions. Let me check. Yes, the water in it is always cool. That's beautiful. Okay. I'll run to the chat boxes. So do we have any questions? Do we have any from YouTube? If you have a question, you can just mute. But if you don't have, we can pause it at that. Okay, I see a chat. Okay, any questions? Going one, going two. All right, you can just give us feedback. Maybe one person give a feedback and then we'll pause it at that. Anybody who's building the cards?
Okay. Do I go ahead? Good evening, sir.
Please go ahead.
Okay. Good evening, sir. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for all that you have shared. So it was really enlightening. So I think maybe as one of the thoughts in my mind too is, I don't know if that was part of your goals, the goals you mentioned when you said meet a team. So is there also going to be a form of consulting, like what you are doing with Ikara? Is it going to be open to other organizations that want to do things like this? So do you understand the question, please? So it's a form of like a question and a contribution. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That's a very brilliant one. So the question is about consulting. Yes, we consult. However, within our own, the total acreage that we're managing right now is 2,000. It's over 2,000. We are currently speaking to one state government for 10,000 acres. So we have a lot going on. When we put this out on social media, we get some very interesting DM. I have 1 acre here. I have 1 plot here. What can you do? So yes, we're open to consulting, but the project scope needs to make sense. If you have just a plot, if you have a small garden plot, we can jump on a call with you and counsel you on what you need to do. So in fact, for people that have 1 plot, 0 to 1 plot, our consultation is always free. So we jump on a call with you, tell you what you need to do, but we're going to give us time ahead to book with you, know what you can do within your space. We can even send seedlings out to you for those you can pay for. But so short answer to that, yes, we can consult if the charts is right. Ikara Farm City is completely different. It's not for members of this community. It's a project I'm privileged to manage. There will be sections when we want to do enterprise development that may be open to people. For instance, part of what we want to do in Ikara, sharing this first year live, is we want to invite people who want to come. We already have the farm. We have some of the funds, people who want to come and manage different areas. So you probably are interested in pig farming. Come, we'll give you a portion. We'll set up the infrastructure for you, and then all you then do is come in and have an ownership stake in that, and then you will then run it, and then we then connect you to the market. So different areas like that, those are some of the things we are thinking for. But that's a very beautiful question about the Ikara Farm City. Do you have any other question? I will take it we'll call it a night from here.
Yes, all right. I asked a question.
Yes, I just responded to that question. That was what I just responded to. The straight answer is no. The other answer is maybe, depending on when things are right. But I just responded to that question. Thank you, sir. Any other comments? Any other question from members in the group? Is there any question? All right. In absence of any other question, I'd like to say thank you so much. Let me stop sharing. Thank you to everyone that was able to join, members of the Kabzu group, Kabzu community. Also good to have you here. Jumake, I see that